You're listening to Power Talk, Berkeley Electric Cooperative's official broadcast about the cooperative, our communities, and ways to use energy wisely. And now, let's join our hosts for today's episode. Good morning and welcome to Power Talk. This is Micah Ponce, the Communications and Media Specialist here at Berkeley Electric Cooperative, joined as always by Ms. Libby Roig, the Director of Marketing and Communications.
Good morning, Micah.
Good morning. It's a great day here at Power Talk. We love it when we have a full studio.
Oh, yeah. We have some ranking officials here today. That's
right. We're going to be on our P's and Q's, folks.
Yeah.
No foolishness. We got that all of a system before we hit record. But with today, we have a couple special guests in studio. We have Mr. Mike Fuller, the President and CEO of Berkeley Electric Cooperative. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
And we also have Ms. Leslie Maley.
Maley.
See, off to a good start already. We should have, Libby, you should have before we hit record,
Didn't
Libby.
ask about the phonetics.
Yeah.
It's a common mistake. It's fine. I was ready for it.
Well, hey, try my name.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah.
But in any case, the Vice President of Planning and Power Supply for Central Electric Cooperative. Thank you for coming.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Well, you were asking a little bit earlier, and what we do here as part of Power Talk when we have a new guest on, we do gift them with a ceremonial mug.
Da, da, da.
Yay, thank you.
A small bribe for sitting in a locked room with us for 30 minutes. Hopefully it's worth it.
It is. I love coffee cups. Totally worth it.
Yeah, it's a nice big coffee cup, too. So.
Well, and the other tradition that we have here on Power Talk when we have somebody new on the show is we ask them to give a little bit of a background so the folks listening know who you are, where you came from, and why you're here with us today.
Okay, yeah. So, Leslie Maley. I work at Central Electric Power Cooperative in South Carolina. I am the Vice President of Planning and Power Supply. I've been at Central for a little over 5 years, started in their Power Supply Contracts Department. Bachelor's in Mathematics, Master's in Accounting.
Wow.
I'm married with 2 kids. My daughter's 16. My son is almost 10.
Are they both good at math, too?
My son is. Hopefully my daughter's not listening to this.
She has other talents.
She does. We're big sports family.
Ooh.
We love to travel. We spend a lot of time together traveling or at some sort of field somewhere.
No,
All right. So what teams do you pull for?
I was about to say, what's your sport of choice?
I'm an Auburn graduate. So
Oh, no.
Oh, you're sitting next to the wrong person.
Perfect. I am now an Auburn fan, too.
My husband went to Alabama.
Oh, gosh.
And graduated, which is an important piece of that.
That is an
inaugural
important
class.
piece.
Yeah.
Graduated first
The one
graduating
time.
class of Alabama.
Yeah. The only graduate from Alabama.
Actually, one of his great grandfathers was president of Alabama for for a period of time. But he went to school when Bear Bryant was coach. So he has kind of and helped report on the football team. He worked for the Tuscaloosa News while he was in school and was part of the team of reporters covering the football team. So he is completely eaten up with it.
Huge Alabama fan.
Yeah, that's really neat.
And I'm contractually obligated to pull for them as well.
Right, that makes sense. I will never pull for them.
He will never pull for Auburn.
I'm going to add a little bit to that. To
Leslie's
to
intro.
To Leslie's intro, because
Appreciate
she's
Left
being
out
kind of
some.
modest
Yeah,
here.
okay.
Among other things, I think she steps into this role at a time in my career that I can't remember a time where power was more important than what it is right now. So we're super proud to have Leslie on the team, and also she's recently been named one of the women of influence in Columbia.
Congratulations.
Wow.
Look at you with the knowledge over there.
Not
Oh my
only
gosh.
a celebrity for us, but her abilities are recognized just beyond the co-op family. So
Yeah.
congratulations for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Anything else?
I'll add in as we go.
Okay. All right.
Say
Well,
everything at one time.
Where all do you travel to? Domestically or internationally?
Oh, she's a world traveler.
Oh.
She's very bougie in her travels, and
Yes, we do kind of dabble in both.
Okay.
We recently went to Italy for a couple weeks,
Nice.
which was fun over the Christmas holidays.
Oh, wow.
And then we have a New York trip coming up next week, actually.
Oh.
And that's where the travel and sports will merge because we're doing a lot of baseball on the way.
Yeah.
I'm gonna add one more thing, just because I think it's pretty cool what you all do with the sports equipment. So tell that story. It's kind of a personal story, but
yeah. So our kids have kind of dabbled in a variety of different sports, and we realized we would have all this equipment that was barely used, and we wanted to give it to an organization to make sure that kids who can't afford equipment could get some good equipment, and one didn't exist. So we created one called Play It Forward, where we collect used sports equipment and give it out to other kids who can't afford it, or families who can't afford it, to help them. Yep.
So if you want to learn more about it, where do you go? Do you guys have a website or Facebook?
Facebook, Play It Forward SC.
Okay. All right. Nice.
I tell you, we have an August persona here
in
the studio with us today.
Oh, yeah.
I'm feeling very unaccomplished.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's my everyday.
She's good at math. I mean, that's where I started feeling
I was about to
bad
say,
about myself.
Yeah, that's why I went to journalism, as far away from math as I could get.
Well, Leslie, our listeners may not have heard of Central Electric and the important role that it has in helping South Carolina co-ops deliver reliable and affordable power to our homes and businesses. So just to kind of get us all on the same page, can you tell us how electricity is created and travels to our home, and what role Central Electric plays in that process?
Yeah, so it's a complicated process. I'm going to make it a little less complicated.
Awesome.
Basically, the electricity is created at a power plant, and that's fueled by a variety of things: coal, natural gas, nuclear, etc. And then it goes through a transformer that gives it a boost so that it can travel really far distances across transmission lines, which are the really tall lines you see when you're taking road trips. And so it goes down those lines, and then as you get closer into town, it'll go through another transformer to step it back down and slow it down, so that it can be safely delivered into homes, so that you can power everything you need, like the AC these days. And so that's kind of how it gets from one place to the other. For Central, we are the generation and transmission cooperative for the state. So sort of that generation, power supply, and transmission aspect of it. There are 19 members in the state, distribution co-op members in the state of South Carolina that join to form Central. That's done all throughout the nation. It's in theory, you've got smaller distribution cooperatives that want to join together and get utility scale power supply and transmission. And so we are governed by our board. We have 38 seats, 2 seats for each distribution member, like Berkeley Electric. And each member's board chooses who sits in those seats.
So Berkeley Electric is a distribution cooperative. So we don't own any power plants or transmission. We start at the substation and move to homes and businesses.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then we step in from that part. Yep.
Now, is Central a traditional generation and transmission organization like Santee Cooper that has coal plants, or do y'all mainly just do the bulk buying of the power?
Traditionally, we've just purchased all of our power, and that's kind of where we are right now. We are in all requirements contracts with Santee Cooper and Duke, but we do have aspects in each contract that allow us to do our own thing if we need to, in terms of owning our own generation.
Great.
We look back at this last legislative session and energy reform. And how do we all know South Carolina's growing, not only residentially, a lot of people moving in, but industry and others. So the passage of that bill that enabled, ultimately we hope will enable Dominion and Santee Cooper to build at Kennedy's. And there's definitely some efficiencies when they can combine to do something together. What does that mean to Central?
So that bill is very important. I mean, it took 2 years in the making. The General Assembly went through a lot of sessions to make sure they got that wording the language in that bill appropriate. It's important because, Mike, as you just said, the state, there's a lot of interest in the state. There's a lot of need for new generation, whether that's from the growth or retiring, older plants like coal plants. And this bill allows Santee Cooper and Dominion to work together. Santee Cooper is a state-run agency, so it needs approval from the state to work with Dominion. And since if they work together, they're estimating saving about 30% in construction costs, which helps us lower our cost to our members and you to your members, which is very important, as we buy about 70% of our power from Santee Cooper. So helping them achieve, something that's 30% less in cost is a good thing for everybody.
And Leslie, what about renewables?
Yeah, so renewables are important. I mean, we do have solar coming onto the system. But it's not a one-for-one replacement. Yeah. You can't take renewables and replace a coal plant with that, because you want to turn your lights on at night and the sun's not shining, and so you need to be able to turn the lights on. So we're looking at an all of the above. Yeah. There's solar, there's batteries, there's this natural gas plant that was in the energy bill. It's really everything to fill this need. Yeah.
The way I heard it described is there's no silver bullet. It's more of a shotgun approach. You don't have that one thing that's going to cure all of our ills when it comes to power generation.
Right.
So like you said, we have that shotgun, all of the above approach. That way it allows the flexibility. So, I mean, if coal's running high in terms of cost one day and natural gas is running a little bit lower, it gives you that flexibility to be able to, get the lower cost power. And like you said, ultimately helps all the members in the state.
Yeah, right, definitely.
Well, we know, talking about cost, I mean, everything is going up, especially over the last 5 years or so. Unfortunately, that does include the cost of electricity. So what are some of the factors that are affecting the cost of electricity and causing it to rise?
Yeah, I don't love being the bearer of bad news, saying that the cost of electricity is going up. Unfortunately, we've all seen it, and that's what's happening. Just like everything else, the cost is going up, and it's all similar to everything else. I mean, the cost of supplies, the cost of labor. In the last 5 years, we've seen major equipment double in price. Now, during COVID, things were a lot more expensive. That's come down some, but not enough. But we are trying to do everything we can to mitigate that cost increase at the central level.
Yeah.
I mean, what are some of the ways that y'all are trying to keep costs as low as possible? Is it sort of like almost like the power buying in bulk, or contract wise, or?
Yeah, I would say we have kind of 3 buckets I like to put it in. So as I mentioned earlier, we primarily buy, from Santee Cooper and Duke. So we partner with them a lot. We work with them a lot on planning and operations to make sure they're doing everything they can to keep their costs low. But then we also have the ability to do things outside of them. And we did a couple years ago. Central's board voted to enter in some other power supply contracts that were at lower cost than our traditional suppliers. So that helps lower that. And then the last thing is member programs. We partner with our members to help develop programs so that they can teach their members how to lower their energy consumption, which then helps the whole system.
Yeah. I'll add a bit to that from maybe a central board perspective too, that we, Berkeley, rely on Central to bring a conglomerate or a broker, but Central's not just a broker. They're our partner. They've been around a long time. We've got long-term contracts, but regardless, we would be a part of Central beyond that. But part of those member programs is how do we have demand reduction? There's a lot of things that we can collectively do that, frankly, Berkeley couldn't do on our own. But because we cover the entire state with the electric co-op system, we can collectively do more. So Central brings more to the table than just, okay, let's buy power here, buy power here, buy power here. So it is part of the co-op family.
Well, and those programs help incentivize behavior changes. So some of our peak shaving programs, members benefit from that as well, in the short term, with rebates and things like that, in addition to, in the long term, helping keep costs low. But it's important also to note, Berkeley Electric operates as a not-for-profit utility. Central is also not-for-profit.
That's right.
And our supplier, CS, is also a co-op owned not-for-profit. So we've got a lot of people working together for the good of the community and not the company.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it does make a difference if at the end of the day your purpose is to serve your members and not to enrich shareholders. It makes a difference.
It does. And I love that we all work together. To your point, CS, the member co-op, Central, we're always working together on trying to do what's best for the members at the end of the line.
Yeah.
And you said it's a multi-organizational effort, and I mean it goes from the very large scope of buying power and equipment all the way down to just education at the member level.
Yeah.
So I mean, even Berkeley Electric, we participate in the Beat the Peak program. So that's an education for our members where we tell them when we're expecting costs of energy to be high because of environmental factors, like when it's really, really hot, 100 plus degrees like we've had recently.
Yeah.
And it puts that load on the system. We're able to alert our members through these free alerts, and they can modify their behavior, move some of their, energy use off of the peak, turn down their air conditioner just a few degrees, which helps everybody, in terms of power supply, power costs, and putting strain on the system. So, I mean, like I said, it goes all the way from the very top big macro level all the way down to moving the dial on your thermostat at the member level.
Definitely.
And it works.
Yeah.
I mean, we do help control the load and keep it low at those really peak hot or really cold times to save money, for the system.
Yeah. Well, folks, if you're just now tuning in, we are talking all things power cost and power supply related with Mr. Mike Fuller, the president and CEO of Berkeley Electric, and Miss Leslie Maley, the vice president of planning and power supply at Central Electric Cooperative. So, like I said, we're trying to figure out where the electricity comes from, how it gets to the house, and more importantly, how we can have enough power to make sure we have enough, to account for all the growth in South Carolina, and make sure that folks can afford that power once they move to South Carolina, or the folks who have been living here for a long time.
Yeah.
So,
Mike, we've been talking about increased costs, and Berkeley Electric is not immune to those changes. Our board carefully considered a rate increase this past spring for all members. Tell us about the work that went into changing those rates to ensure, as a not-for-profit cooperative, the costs are fairly distributed across all of our members.
So, for those that have been in South Carolina for a while, we've heard about the nuclear project that ultimately failed. That was a $9 billion project, and ultimately, this last rate adjustment was primarily due to that. So Santee Cooper had a 4-year rate freeze. So starting in January, we come out from under that rate freeze. So for Berkeley, just for ourselves, our bill went up $23 million. So, and as you mentioned, we're a not-for-profit, so we can't just absorb that. We can't take that out of shareholder what the shareholders would make. So it was incumbent upon our board to ensure that we stayed stable. So we had to pass that along, and keeping in mind, so we had to make up $23 million on that. We added 7,700 new accounts last year. So you've got infrastructure costs. We may not have the latency, but things are still very expensive.
Yeah.
And because we're growing, that gets expensive too. And oh, by the way, 70 to roughly 75% of every dollar that our members give us goes straight back into power supply.
Yeah.
So whether that's through Central, the Duke, the Santee Cooper, but that's why power is so important. So what we did is we put that back into, the board opted to put that back into our fixed cost. And then ideally what that does is then the energy is a pass-through.
Yeah.
So we've got to take care of our poles, our lines, our transformers, all of those things. But then the energy, and we did that. The board opted for that option, so we didn't add it on to a variable cost being the energy. And as Micah mentioned, we've had close to 100-degree days here in the last few weeks that all of a sudden, because we added it into the energy charge, your bill went up $150. That's not prudent for us to do that. So the board put it on the fixed charge. So the most anybody's for the residential customer member, it'll go up $15.
Yeah.
So that way it keeps from having those huge winter or summer spikes. And it's, in our mind, it's the right thing to do. Everybody's paying their proportionate share. So that's what our board opted to do. Ideally, that lasts for a while. But that, $23 million and 7,700 new accounts, that takes a lot of money to keep it running.
And at the end of the year, if we do have any margins above and beyond what we need to operate the co-op, it's returned back to our members.
Right. Yeah, that's something that sometimes we take for granted. But being part of a co-op, at the end of the day, every year our margin is zero, because every dime or every penny is allocated back to our members, and then those members receive a capital credit on their bill. So then that way, that's their proportionate share. So in the event we make more, there's more money, that just means more money back to the members.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned, we're doing what we can to mitigate spikes and whatnot, and I mentioned also education for the members. I mean, that's one of the core messages for a cooperative, is educating their members, and also, like I said, we're operating at close to cost, and so we do everything we can to help our members save money. One of the things that we have is we've got a couple of budget programs where you can eliminate spikes from your bill that are caused by large swings in the electricity because of high temperatures. We've got fixed budget billing and our levelized billing. And unfortunately, Berkeley Electric members do have a valuable resource which they can depend on, which is our entire energy services team. We're lucky to be a larger co-op, and we have a very robust energy services team that is here to help our members with a wide variety of ways to use only the energy that they want to use and reduce it as much as possible. We have free online audits. We have virtual audits. We have free in-home audits where if we can't figure out what's going on by just looking at the data, we'll come out to your house. We're going to identify those areas that are causing the most problem to make your house comfortable and also lower your bill. We've got a couple loan programs that can help with that as well, where you'll be able to make those improvements to your home without raising your electric bill. I mean, it makes your house more comfortable, and a lot of times the savings from those improvements offset the cost of the loan. So we've got a lot of those things that are going on, and actually we were talking about partners with all kinds of organizations, and one of the things that we just did is a grant with Google, which aims to make low-income households more energy efficient. So we understand that we can't caulk our way out of an energy crisis, but every little bit helps. As much as we can reduce the need for power on the individual level, on the member level, every little bit of that goes towards lowering the peak and lowering the demand for energy that we have here in the state.
Well, and Micah, you mentioned earlier the role that education plays in helping reduce energy consumption. And through Smart Hub, we have a new tool called Bidgely, and it uses AI to help you understand how your home is consuming energy and therefore make changes if you are looking to reduce your energy. So we're excited about that new tool. It was just rolled out a couple months ago, but we think it'll be like an energy services person in your pocket.
There you go. Well, so far I've only used AI to see what my dog looks like as a person.
Which is my favorite use of AI so far.
That's your next step then.
Okay, yeah. All right.
Yeah. So, Leslie, Mike mentioned earlier that lawmakers passed a bill this spring that allows us to build a new natural gas-fired power plant in Colleton County, where I'm from. And it's actually just up the road from where I grew up. But so why is this legislation going to make such a big difference?
Yeah, so, it's helping get the process going a little bit faster. I mean, the gas plant is needed. There's a lot of infrastructure that has to go in place. Allowing Sandy Cooper and Dominion to work together to help mitigate some of that cost increase, get that economy of scale together, I think is just very important. And that's what this helped put in place so that we can get this gas plant moving. Right now, I think it's to be built maybe by the early 2030s.
Okay.
Which is needed with all the growth that we have in the state and all the things we have coming in the state and around that time period.
Yeah. So this is going to be the first new generation in the state in almost 20 years. Cross 3 and 4 were last added in 07 and 08. And the new plant's going to generate 2,000 megawatts.
That's right. And to put that in perspective, a megawatt's about 600 homes.
Okay.
So, yep.
Yeah. So you can do the math.
Well, you just heard Mike say all the new meters you guys have had. So
Yeah.
just think about how that can help in that.
Yeah, definitely.
I think one of the things that folks, before I became part of the power industry, one of the things that the general consumer doesn't really understand is how long it takes to create some of these projects and to complete some of these projects. Just as an aside, when I first joined the cooperative 25 years ago now, we were talking about bringing in a new transmission line from Georgetown to serve the McClellanville end of our substation. And 25 years later, we still, unfortunately, don't have that power line because of a whole host of factors. Mm-hmm. But, those are one of the things that you have to take into consideration. When we're talking about needs, we're not talking about needs next year. We're forecasting those needs 10, 15 years down the line because that's how long it takes us to be able to plan, permit, and build those infrastructure needs.
These are, to me, I think a good way, and I heard someone frame it, these are generational decisions.
Yeah.
Right.
So these are decisions that not only, kind of like the old adage of plant a tree today for someone down the road, that's what these decisions are for. And we're realizing the impact of decisions that were made a few generations before us right now. So that's why it's critical. This isn't a decision. These are very, very expensive plants and decisions that we're making, and this is into South Carolina's future.
Yeah. Well, and Mike, we've got just a few minutes left. As you're aware, Berkeley Electric works on a 5-10 year work plan to maintain and improve our reliability in our system. Along the same lines of a power plant construction, how long do various points in the distribution system take, like a new substation or new transmission line? We mentioned the one Mike is still waiting on 25 years later.
How long does it take to build?
Yeah, how long does it take to build a substation?
I'd say right now, and I'll pick on power transformers. So the transformers that's in a substation, you're looking at 2 or 3 years. So that's why we've got to stay ahead of it. We've got to know our load growth and know, okay, safe, reliable, and affordable, but we've got to know if we've got issues in a certain area, we've got to be in front of that.
Yeah.
So it does take time, but part of that, if you can imagine, we've got a model of our system that's built in, and we see, okay, here's the growth that's coming into this feeder, and we spend a whole lot of time and energy trying to ensure that we're keeping up with our entire system.
So you might have long lead times on the equipment needed to build a substation, like the transformers within a substation, but also identifying the land and buying that goes into the process.
Right, yeah.
And I imagine cost is also important as well, because we've been talking about, one of the things that we always try to do is mitigate the impact on our members. So, when we're talking a substation transformer costs about, couple million, something like that. So, if we're talking a couple million every couple of years, that's something that we really have to plan for, because if we dump that all on the membership at one time, unfortunately, that will have a negative impact on rates, and we will have to raise rates to be able to cover those costs.
Right. And one of the things that our board tries to balance is to ensure that all the new members and all the new customers, that cost isn't borne by our existing customers.
Yeah.
So it's trying to find that balance with whether it's effectively a line extension policy, how to ensure that the developers are paying their fair share. That's another reason that fixed cost made sense, because it ensures that they're paying their fair share, and it's not just in energy. But growth is good. Sometimes you get the impression that, hey, growth, it can be challenging, but we're in a fortunate position that a robust economy, high tide floats all the ships. That's kind of what happens. So growth is good, but we've just got to be able to manage it.
And for the co-op, growth is just half of it. We have 6,400 mile lines that we have to maintain, and all the equipment that runs those lines.
Right.
So it's definitely a balancing act between maintenance and new construction.
Right.
And talking about the lines, we talked about it before. We try our best to keep up with maintenance and make sure that we're taking care of these new developments that are coming in. And we actually crossed the threshold not that long ago where we have more underground lines now than overhead lines, which does help with reliability. There are some trade-offs, but largely does help with reliability. And I think we're running somewhere around 99.98% in terms of our system reliability. So not too much better you can get, but we're always looking to squeeze that little bit extra out of there.
Yeah, we're always trying to do that. And like you mentioned, the underground, we crossed that 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah. But we are actually, as fast as we're growing, our miles of overhead line is going down while underground's going up. So if we have built into our construction work plan where we can take those lines in the back of neighborhoods, if we can take those out, we don't want to create stranded costs and say, okay, well, we just built it, but now we're going to take it back out. But anytime we can do that, it makes sense for a variety of reasons. So that's another reason. Plus, living on the coast, it certainly helps with storms too.
Definitely.
Well, folks, we appreciate you tuning in. This is Power Talk, the official broadcast of your electric cooperative, and you can catch up on past episodes on streaming platforms like Spotify, Apple, and iHeartRadio. And as always, get a behind-the-scenes look on Berkeley Electric's YouTube channel. So until next time, this is Power Talk, signing off.